Hey everybody! Welcome to the Good Evening Kitties podcast, a Tales from the Crypt review. My name is Melissa, your ghostess with the mostest, and today's episode is Season 5, Episode 13, Till Death Do We Part. And I have with me again, guest host Mike. Hi Mike!
Good evening, kitties.
Welcome back.
It's great to be back.
So this episode is the last episode for Season 5. So I'll be wrapping up Season 5 and then moving on to Season 6. So, Season 5, Episode 13, Till Death Do We Part. Let's talk about it. As always, John Kassir does the voice of the Crypt Keeper and Danny Elfman does the theme song. This episode aired December 8th, 1993. It's directed by W. Peter Iliff, who also directed movies like Rites of Passage. The screenplay is also by W. Peter Iliff. It stars Kate Vernon from TV's Battlestar Galactica, the good one.
Oh, gonna start a fight.
Oh, I think a lot of people will agree with me that the recent one's the better one. John Stamos from TV's Full House. Robert Picardo from TV's Star Trek Voyager. Frank Stallone from movies like Hudson Hawk. Johnny Williams from movies like Goodfellas. And Eileen Brennan from movies like Clue. So it's a fairly large cast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead here and read the description on the back of the box for Season 5, Episode 13, Till Death Do We Part. What if a gigolo romancing a mob-connected older woman eyes an attractive young waitress?
What if?
What if?
Just like a question mark right afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird way that they write it.
It's like a Netflix description. It's so generalized you have no idea what the episode's actually about beyond like just one little like thing about the plot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're asking what if about.
Yeah.
Well, actually, now I do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess I'll say it. So, because there's different scenarios
in
the episode that are kind of played
spoilers.
out. Well, we're getting ready to get to it. But there are different scenarios.
There's a twist, folks.
Yeah, there's a couple twists in this. There's different scenarios, so maybe that's where they're like, what if I did this and this would happen? So, okay, it's still just a weird way to put it. So this one opens up, the Crypt Keeper is an announcer on a radio station called KRPT, Crypt. And there's candles, and he's in the crypt, and he's got like a real bad toupee on and a suit, and he's watching the TV with binoculars while he has a headset on. They're talking about like a baseball game, and at first you're like, what does this have to do with the episode? Not a whole lot. Mostly that later, they're listening to a baseball game during the episode.
Yeah, it's very...
But at least it's something.
Yeah, it's not like some episodes where we've struggled to think, okay, how does this link up? What does this have in common with the episode? And sometimes, especially since season 3, it's been nothing.
Well, and what's fun is it cuts over to this little picture of like a ball diamond, right? And he's talking about the different players. And what's great is that on first base is Ooze, second base is Guts, third base is Terror, the umpire is Feldstein.
1940 kids will know.
No, it's the people tied to the Tales from the Crypt franchise.
It's off of Abbott and Costello's Who's on First. That's what they're referencing.
Oh my gosh, is that it? Who's on First?
You didn't get that.
I did not.
That's okay.
Ooh, I like that.
It's from before your time.
No, I know that joke. It just I didn't catch that. But Feldstein is on the catcher's mound, and Gaines, as in William Gaines, is in the pitcher's mound, which is tied to Tales from the Crypt EC universe. So it's kind of a little nod to them. Cuts to the episode. So it's these woods. You're kind of like in the middle of nowhere.
I kind of got like a New Jersey Pine Barrens kind of feel from it.
Yeah.
Just because, this whole thing just
feels
feels
their
like
accents, too.
Yeah, this whole thing sounds like the mob in Atlantic City kind of thing, so...
And so there's this limousine, and it's pulling up into this clearing in these woods. And Frank Stallone, as in, I believe it's Sylvester Stallone's brother.
I think so.
Which it does look like him.
Yeah.
Gets out of the car, and, he's taking his coat off, and he's looking around, making sure no one's around. And so he pulls out a little radio, and there's a baseball game going on, and he's listening to it. And then out of the car comes Kate Vernon, and she's with this other guy who works with this group, and he's got a gun to her. And so he's having her walk out to this little clearing. And Frank Stallone is putting on an apron, and they're popping the trunk.
Like a butcher's apron.
Yeah, like to keep his clothes clean. Because they're all in sharp suits. Everyone's got nice clothes in this episode.
You're going to dismember a body. You still don't want to get your Armani stained.
So they're opening it up, and it's just kind of sad because it's like, it's these guys who are getting rid of a body. Their boss is Eileen Brennan, who is
Love
fun
her
in this episode. She is fun. She is
She is a scary lady.
Oh, just watch it just for her performance if you want. Like, it's...
She comes off as, well, we'll talk about this later, but she comes off as very believable in the role, you know.
Yes. So they want Lucy's help. Lucy is played by Kate Vernon. And so they're like, come over here and help us. And so the poor thing, she's scared. She's got a gun to her. She's got like a cute white blouse and stuff. And then they're in suits. And they're pulling a body out of the back of the trunk. And it's been kind of wrapped up in some like clear tarp stuff. But they're having her help. She's got to help with this body removal. Because they're going to cut it up in little pieces and either bury it or...
I know it's highly macabre, as they would say. But I've always enjoyed scenes of like truly horrific acts being displayed, being performed with a certain air of boredom or just like, this is just a job kind of feeling.
Because it is. I mean, this is their routine.
It's just like, guy complaining at the other one, oh, you didn't wrap him up well enough, is leaking all over the trunk.
Yeah, apparently leaking the trunk, and then he's got an axe, and he's literally, he's done this before.
Yeah.
Right, so he's like, I like to keep it clean, I've done this enough to where I have a routine. They roll the tarp out, and the guy's body comes out, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna be sick, and she throws up. And this whole time, the baseball game is going on still, and he's like, Frank Stallman's character is practicing his swing, his baseball swing with the axe.
Nearly throws out his back doing it.
Yeah.
This thing better have a good edge on it. You know, if my chiropractor knew I was doing this, he'd kill me. Forget about it. Okay. It's a big bone motherfucker, ain't he?
On your feet, ma'am.
No.
Mrs. Brazzi was very adamant. Said to wait until Tony's done. She wanted you to watch.
Yeah, she kind of swoons and faints a little when he starts chopping the body up. And it's a lovely, beautiful, sunny day out while all this is happening. So they're like, no, the boss was adamant that you watch this. Like, she's like, I want you to watch this body get dismembered. And you're like, great.
I just had a thought. This is a kind of an interesting kind of segue, because not all of the episodes in Tales from the Crypt are really strictly horror. This is really just more of a kind of like a mob episode. This is just like a crime episode, really.
Yeah, it's a crime episode. So Lucy's there, and she threw up, and this guy who's playing Frank Bobo.
Bobo.
Well, some of these names are interesting. For the characters here, you got Kate Vernon, she's playing Lucy. Later we'll meet John Stamos, who's playing Johnny. So you got Johnny and Lucy. You're like, all right, fine. Then you got Robert Picardo playing Frank Bobo. Then you got Frank Stallone playing Tony, because you got to have a Tony.
Frank, Tony, this is just...
And then later we'll meet a guy played by Johnny Williams named Willard Boogeyman.
Boogeyman, yes.
Willard Boogeyman. And then Eileen Brennan plays Ruth.
Just Ruth.
Yeah. I mean, I think she's got other names. So now they're leading... So after this guy's starting to get chopped up, they're leading Lucy to a little farther down the clearing, Frank is. And now they're going to kill her. Now it's her turn. So this whole scene is just like a lot. Because Frank is just real bad about...
Yeah, this is...
dragging it out.
Very uncomfortable, somewhat ghoulish, scavenger-like instincts of this guy.
Well, it's like, she's already terrified. She's about ready to get killed, and he's dragging it out. You think that their boss would be like, come on, we gotta get going.
Yeah.
But I guess there's time to kill, because Tony's still chopping up the other dudes. So
they're trying to...
But I feel like
trying to multitask.
I feel like you're giving her too much time, You can also tell he enjoys what he does, the guy who's taunting her. Like, he's got the gun to her.
Oh, yeah, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, and he's trying to act like he's a nice guy, but he's like, oh, I like your jewelry. So he wants the jewelry, and then he realizes he wants his clothes, possibly for his daughter. She's about her size. Lucy's preparing to die. This baseball game is going on, and part of me is like, wouldn't it be horrible if the last thing you hear before you die is a baseball game that you don't care about? Like, it'd be pretty bad if you're just like, this is the last thing I get to hear? This baseball game that I don't care anything about? I'm probably not going to find out the ending. I don't know who wins, because I'm going to die. So, like... Oh,
no, you don't like baseball? Everyone likes baseball!
This is what she's got to hear. And yeah, so this guy, Frank Bobo, is asking her for, her clothes and everything like that. And so she's starting to take off her jewelry and stuff. So we'll get to the clothes in a bit. But she's taking off her jewelry, and then it cuts back. So now we're going back. Not by too much. I don't think it's too long, like a day or two.
Yeah.
So now they're coming back to the club. The club is called Ruthless Ruths, is the name of the club. And it's ran by Ruth. And Ruth is played by Eileen Brennan. Let me set the scene. So it's kind of like a swanky kind of bar lounge area.
It's the kind of thing that people would call classy, but really it's kind of a dump.
Yeah. And the guys are sitting there, and Eileen's in the back of the like circular booth, and they got booze and they got shots, and Eileen's boy toy is played by John Stamos, Johnny. He's probably at least 20 to 25, maybe even 30 years younger than her. He gets everything paid for him, and he just provides her with attention and arm candy and probably other services as well. And she's kind of fabulous, but like in an evil way. Like a Cruella de Vil
kind of a trashy way,
yeah.
too. Like, that's the thing. You kind of get the idea that she's been doing this since Prohibition.
Yeah, she's a little trashy. She's got, like, red is her color. She looks great, I think. I mean, it's a little trashy, but, like, she's got the red dress on, a red lipstick, and she's smoking with, like, one of those long things with the cigarette on the end.
Yeah, got the cigarette holder and everything.
And they're just laughing, having a great time. And Lucy, Kate Vernon's character, is their waitress. She works there at the lounge. And so she's bringing them their shots, and like John Stamos is kissing all over Ruth, and they're all smoking. Everyone's just smoking, and these guys kind of all just dote on her because she's the boss.
Yeah, you gotta keep the boss happy.
Yes.
Especially if she's your murderous mob mom.
Yeah, because there's definitely at least... actually, yeah, I did look it up, and there is a 30-plus year gap between John Stamos and Eileen Brennan.
Which is an interesting kind of subversion. You know, usually you see like some older man in power with like this young thing off his arm.
Yeah, I kind of like the switch.
Well, I mean, either way, it's kind of creepy if you think about it. But I don't think he has much more choice than that woman would if she was a he, if you know what I mean.
That's true. So then she does that thing that I hate sometimes that they do in shows, where they actually did this also on another episode of Tales from the Crypt and The Thing from the Grave, where Johnny's like kissing all over her, and then she sees Lucy and she's like, Johnny, don't you think Lucy's pretty? And he's supposed to be all like, not as pretty as you, baby.
Mrs. Bratzy, would you care for anything else?
Nothing you can help me with, honey. Johnny, would you care for anything else?
No, thank you, sweetheart.
You're very pretty. Lucille is very pretty, don't you think so, Johnny?
The customers think so. She does a good job for them.
Do you think Lucille is pretty?
I only have eyes for you, sweetheart.
Oh, Johnny,
And she's like, that's right, that's a good answer. So it's like, I hate that kind of stuff where you're like just setting it up for the situation.
You're really fishing hard for that compliment.
So they're all smoochy, and all the other guys are just like, this is great, whatever. So then she leaves the table, and there's this random dude who's just like, he has no point in this except for maybe to give her a reason to think there might be better guys out there. Because I do kind of like him. He seems a little shifty, but he's just kind of drinking and flirting with her. They're rolling dice for like odds and playing like a dice game, but he seems okay.
Well, they seem like they're actually friends, like they know each other.
He wouldn't turn her down if she was interested.
Well, obviously.
He's also not going to crowd her into a room and do
he's drinking alone at the bar. He's there to cruise.
But then he just gets up and leaves. He's like, all right, cool, peace out, and he leaves. So she's cleaning up and everything, and she's talking to the bartender, and the bartender is kind of like, Ruthless Ruth really is pretty ruthless. Just be careful what you're getting involved with, because these guys don't mess around. People go missing and death. Just death. Just missing and death.
Just death in general.
And so now she goes to clock out from her shift, which it's an old-timey clock out of putting the paper in the thing and going... And clicking out to clock out for the day. Which is interesting because, like, you could always get someone to clock in or clock out for you with that method. Now it's like a whole sign-in thing that you have to do online, usually. Yeah. But back then you could be like, like, make a call from the phone booth. You guys remember phone booths? Make a call from the phone booth and be like, I'm not going to be there for 10 more minutes. Can you just clock me in real quick? And someone's like, it's done. Hurry up before the boss gets in,
How it's so weird how, like, just computers in general and cell phones and mass communications have changed everything. Mm-hmm. It's just the way we view things. Like, looking back on this now, even as a 35-year-old, this is quaint.
Yes, so she's clocking out, and next to her is John Stamos, and he's like,
hey.
He's like, hey, what's up? What's up, baby? And at first you're not sure. You're thinking they're just like kind of friends or whatever. And there's like a side room next to where you clock out, and it's like an office for Ruth. I think they also probably live here, maybe above. I could see that you would.
Maybe.
Like you'd live above it. Okay, so she gets this watch. Was that a gift from Johnny?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Like, that would make sense then later when she has to take the watch off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a gift from Johnny. So she's got this watch. She's like, oh my god, I love it. It's beautiful. And they're going into this office, which is extremely risky for what they're about to do. So they're going into this office, and John Stamos is trying to be all sexy, like, hey, baby. And he's just, like, leaning up against the wall.
I mean, they're both good looking.
Yes, they're both very attractive. It's just kind of funny because John Stamos is in the Uncle Jesse period of his life here. Like, he's on Full House at this time.
Although we talked about this, though, that really doesn't make that much of a difference. I mean, it wasn't the main guy from Full House also doing dirty stand-up, so...
Yeah.
Was it Bob Saget?
Bob Saget.
Yeah, so...
But to put him in this, like, more of a sexual role in a way. I mean, it's not super, but it's definitely...
Well, I mean, the same family that's going to be watching Full House might not even have cable to watch HBO, so...
I guess. And so then they start making out up against the door of the office. And they're like, oh my god, baby, I love you so much. You're the best. I love you.
Like the weird bitey kisses, like, home.
She's like opening his shirt up and kissing his chest.
Almost like a vampire scene about him, because she's like paying a lot of attention to his neck. I was expecting any moment to be like...
And so his plan is that any day now he'll get the combination for her safe. And he's like, I'll get Ruth's combination, we'll get this money, I mean, you're ready to get out of here, screw all these people. All I gotta do is, like, bang her a few more times, and then...
Just a few words.
So then it cuts back to the day that she's gonna die on this landing, right?
Yes, cuts back to the forest.
Yes, so they're in the forest. Ruth is looking out the limo window. She's like, yes, everything's going to plan, and the window comes up.
Imagine a gun mole who probably was quite the looker back in the 20s and 30s, and now it's the 90s. And, well, she hasn't changed her dressing or habits or attitude at all, but,
well, it's only been like a day, I think. This is like the next morning.
From the 1920s?
Yes, from the 1920s.
It's not just non-linear people, there's time travel involved.
Well, her hair's kind of like frizzy. Like, it needs some, like, anti-frizz shampoo. But, so she's watching. She's like, yay. And so Frank Stone's character is still chopping that body up. He's pulling his back. He's like, oh, I'm getting too old for this.
I gotta retire from killing people.
But he's hoping a lot of the animals will drag it away. I think other bodies they put there, the animals kind of run off with the pieces. So now the guy's sitting there, like I said, he's going to want her clothes too. So he's like, what size is your clothes? And it's creepy.
Yeah.
And it's creepy too because he wants to give it to, like, his daughter. He's like,
yeah,
oh, you're the same size as my
it's about
daughter.
the principle of the thing. It's like that kind of thing to where, like, you can see a body getting hacked up here, like, ha, that's funny. But then, like, someone being like, before I kill you, can I have, like, your clothes for my family? And that's just like, dude, that's crossing a line. I don't know how to describe it.
He was saying, because he's looking at her, he's like, you got a great body. What size are you, a 6? He's like, my wife used to be a 6 till she had 3 kids. I mean, she's still, my wife, but, like,
wow,
she doesn't have the same figure. And it's like, so this guy has a wife and 3 kids, and then he comes home and brings them gifts from his whatever job he's telling them he has, unless they actually know. And I like this juxtaposition, though, here, where she's starting to take her clothes off, and then it cuts back to, like, the day before, and her clothes are her top's off. So it's like she kind of takes it off, and then it cuts back to when her top was off earlier. Now they're kissing. They both don't have their tops on. Like, she's still in her bra and underwear. And then he's in, she's got, like, the whitest bra and underwear and these black heels, and then he's still got his jeans. It's really risky. They're on the desk in the office.
They're right on Ruth's desk.
In the club. Like, I don't know where he was expecting her to be, but now she's coming back. So she's coming back. Ruth is coming to the office. They're like, oh my god, what am I going to do? So now they're like, hurry, grab the clothes. So he grabs the clothes and throws her behind this curtain. He's trying to make it look like nothing was going on. He starts to put his shirt back on. It's not quite buttoned all the way. So Ruth comes in with her 2 henchmen, Frank and Tony, and this third guy, who I believe is Willard Boogeyman.
Willard Boogeyman.
I want to say he owes him money. He did something wrong. He's not on screen for that long. John Stamos is on the side smoking, like, oh, nothing's going on. Oh my god. And she may not show it now, but she knows something's up. She's not stupid. She knows he's trying to cover up whatever's going on, and she gets to it in a second. But right now she's got business because she is a professional businesswoman.
A professional criminal businesswoman.
Okay, but she's also got her black fur coat. She's very fancy. It's like a combination of Cruella de Vil and Mrs. Hannigan from Annie, is what it kind of reminds me of. Like the trashy, but like also kind of like classy.
Kind of reminds me a bit of Bedelia from Creepshow, in fact, from the first episode, Father's Day, if you remember. In fact, very similar roles in life. I mean, kind of involved with organized crime. Both, involved in moitas. But Bedelia was way more relatable, whereas this lady, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I was power mad and liked to kill people.
Yeah, so this guy, Willard, screwed up. I'm not exactly sure what. Some sort of deal. It's not really that important.
This guy is giving them crap, though. Like, this guy is going out of the way to insult them while he's in their office. And it's not really clear exactly what's going on, but we get the feeling like he feels like he's
I'm not gonna
taken
look it
advantage of.
I'm not going to look it up.
It doesn't matter.
No,
for one
because
thing.
he's literally on the screen for like a minute. So he's in here in this suit, and then he's like getting frustrated because they don't understand what's going on, this guy Willard. And so he's like saying it's all their fault, and then he's like, well, this is what happens when you deal business with a woman. And of course that pisses Ruth off. And one thing I respect about Ruth, about Ruth, unlike other bosses that are shown, like mob bosses and stuff in groups, she will do her own killing.
It's interesting, I always talk about like female killers and how, oftentimes in criminology they talk about how a lot of them prefer to do it by poisoning and stuff like that. No, she just hauls off and stabs this guy.
Yes, and I appreciate that she's not like, Tony, take care of him or whatever, like they do in some shows.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
She's just immediately grabs, I think it's a letter opener.
Yeah, it's visceral.
It comes up behind him right into his back, and there's just like blood everywhere.
I love how like the yell she gives is more out of like, it seems like she's just frustrated. She's sick of hearing him talk. And she's just like, shut up.
It might be to also give her like she's kind of a small older lady, to maybe give her a little bit of power, like, you really put it in there. So he's getting stabbed to death. And Lucy's watching from the curtain, and she's like, oh my gosh, everything's so bad, oh my god. Like she can't believe it. She's like, I hope she doesn't find out I'm half naked behind this curtain.
It's like, maybe I shouldn't be cheating with him. Well, getting him to cheat, whatever. A little dangerous what she's gotten herself involved in. Maybe she didn't fully get that. Should listen to the barkeep.
The problem is, though, so after this guy gets stabbed and he falls off the table, or off the chair, Lucy may have gasped. She made some sort of movement in front of that curtain because she was looking out of the curtain a little bit. So right at that moment, Ruth turns and can kind of see something behind the curtain. So she knows something's going on. So then she's like, all tired from stabbing this guy. She's like, I'm gonna go over here. And then John Stamos is like, what, baby? Where are you going? What? Nothing's going on. What? He's like, no, she's gonna find it. And so she sashays herself over there with her frizzy hair. She opens the curtain. And there's Lucy in her bra and underwear, holding clothes up against her, terrified. John Stamos has the gall to walk up to her and be like, what were you doing in here? How dare you? I can't believe you've been in here.
At this point, this is just self-preservation, though.
She's in her bra and underwear, which Ruth even points out. She's like, oh, yeah, this is fooling me. She's half naked. And like,
I love the turn of phrases she uses. Doesn't she say, and the bitch's tits are coming out of her bra?
Yeah, something like that.
What's she doing? What the fuck are you doing here, huh?
Johnny!
Are you trying to get her combination of her safe? Are you trying to steal my baby's money? Is that what you're trying to do?
Oh, you bastard!
Shut the fuck
Give
up.
me a fucking break, will you, Johnny? My God, the bitch is standing there in her lacy panties. Her nipples are busted through her brassiere, and you're gonna tell me that you don't know how she got in here?
Sorry, baby. I swear to God.
Oh, don't you get it? Don't you ever learn? Don't you ever learn? How many times I gotta go through this shit?
How many bimbos I gotta slice and dice before you keep that thing zipped?
No more, I swear.
Kiss me.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
And then he's all like mad, trying to act out. He smacks her. But look, it's like his shirt's already open. He looks sweaty, and she's half naked in the other room.
It's pretty obvious what's going on.
What does it look like? Yeah, she's like, look, her nipples are gonna bust through that brassiere.
Yeah, okay, that's what I meant.
She's like, don't lie to me. And so she hits him, and this is where part of it, like even the two guys,
oh, they're having fun.
The two like minions or whatever in the back, Tony and Frank, are just like, ooh, yeah, he's gonna get it tonight. But this is where it kind of gets a little sad, even though I know Johnny's not perfect and he got himself probably in this situation. But he's also kind of abused. She hits him, he can't leave. Like, it's kind of like a...
Yeah, it's
a situation.
It does exist.
And then, she's like making out with him, and she's like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Like reasserting her dominance.
Yeah, she's basically like peeing on him. She's like, that's right, Lucy, he mine. So then it cuts back again to the next day in the forest. Lucy's taken, her clothes are gone now, just like it was back in the other scene. And then it cuts to the limo. So for a second, I almost kind of thought it was John Stamos's body. Like, I thought maybe he was being killed for having the affair. Yeah. But then it's not really, think about it, it's that Willard guy.
You do end up, like, there's a lot of, it makes you kind of assume things, and then it's like, nope,
Yeah, like at first
So-
I was like, oh, is this because, they got in trouble? But no. So Stamos is still alive. He's still in the back of the limo with her. He knows Lucy's gonna die. I think this has happened before, as it's been implied. I think maybe once or twice, like he's maybe had to have girls had to be...
No, it has.
Yeah.
This is why I don't relate to him. This is why I don't think that he's any better than Ruth or any of these other guys.
Because he's bad at not getting caught.
He's willfully involving these women and getting them killed.
Yeah, but they're also getting involved with a guy who is linked romantically to a mob boss.
There are probably people that date people from the mob and don't get killed right off the bat all the time. Come on.
But yeah, he is kind of taking the risk of knowing. But he also knows it is a self-preservation in a way too, because he also knows she'll forgive him enough times. If he grovels enough to Ruth, this other chick will die and he won't.
At the same time, you have to think, okay, what's more important? That I get laid with some other chick and I get her killed just to satisfy my jollies? Is that all worth it? You have to think about the mind. I don't think he's remotely a good person at all. His character's awful. So
then now Ruth turns to him in the limo and she's like, you know what? I'd feel so much better if you killed her yourself. And he's like, is that what you want, baby? Or whatever. So then he's like, fine, I'll do it. So he gets out of the car and he comes up to Frank and he's like, she wants me to do it. So he takes the gun from Frank and he's looking at Lucy and she's like, I can't believe this is going to happen, Johnny. I can't believe. And then he looks like real sad and he tells her to turn around. And so she turns around and it's pretty tense, and she's looking up and you're like, is he going to do it? What's going to happen? And he's got the gun to the back of her head. And then it gets a little crazy because then he turns, because something's going to happen. You're like, it's just going to end like this.
Well, no, there's like 5 more minutes left.
So he turns, he grabs Frank, he sticks the gun into his stomach instead of just shooting him in the head. He sticks it into his stomach and lets out like 8 rounds.
This is one of those bottomless magazine kind of deals here, folks.
So this becomes the tale of all the guns with just endless clips. Like there's so many bullets in there. So he like releases 6 to 8 into this guy.
Fires off another 6 to 8 more in their general direction.
Yeah, so then he kills Frank, turns. Tony, Frank Stallone's character, tries to pull a gun out. It's not quick enough or misses. And then he gets shot. And then Johnny grabs the other 2 guns and he's after the car now. So he's going after Ruth. And so I'm assuming Ruth jumps into the front. There's not a driver.
Well, Ruth was already...
She was in the back seat.
Oh, that's right. She was in the back seat. I guess we're not meant to question it.
I guess there was a driver. There has to be, unless she was able to move fast enough.
No, there probably was a driver. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Go back and watch.
So the car drives away.
Does it matter?
Yes, it does. So the car drives away, and what's fun is the back of the license plate says Ruthless. That's what her license plate says. And so she drives away, and he's shooting all the time, just endless rounds on both these guns.
Yeah.
Pew 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 pew. So
you see it so much in media. After a certain point, you just don't care anymore.
So now it's kind of like an action scene. So he runs over and he puts his suit coat over her, and they hug, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I'm so sorry. Let's go get revenge and get the money out of that safe." So now it cuts to the lounge, and it's kind of fun because like they walk in. She's only got the suit coat on with her bra and underwear, and then he's got his shirt open and stuff. He like knocks on the lounge, and like all the guys, like the lounge door, all the guys are like, "What? What's going on?" They go to get the lounge doors, right? And then Johnny has like the gun pointing at his crotch, which I hate too, because it's so dangerous. Yeah. And he pulls it out and turns to the side and shoots the guy who checks the door. So this just becomes an all-out gunfight. So
a gunfight with no one taking cover, everyone just standing and shooting.
And she's got sunglasses on, and some of the other guys got sunglasses on.
I will give Johnny some credit. At least he hits the deck.
It's kind of a cool scene. Like it's very like
a poor man's like Robert Rodriguez movie.
Well, I want to say like L.A. Confidential, but I don't know if that's just like a shoot 'em up.
Yeah, like the 80s action movie shoot 'em up.
Yeah, they're like up against each other.
Yeah, Chuck Norris movie. Everyone's just shooting at each other
like
without
like Norris thing.
Any logic whatsoever.
Not a trace of them.
they take out everyone in the lounge except for Ruth. And even the guy behind the bar is shooting at them, and they're shooting at him. Like, everyone's dying. So Ruth goes and runs back.
So they kill everybody.
They kill everybody.
Except for Ruth.
I love Lucy takes her glasses off, like, she just swings them off, like the opposite of the guy on that show. Yeah, what's that show called?
Oh, was it Miami Vice?
Is it 24?
No, God, no.
Sorry, I was asking. Is it CSI? CSI
It might be. CSI
the one
Miami.
where the guy puts it on, he's like, yow! But it's like backwards.
Yow! Referencing things that we've never watched, kids.
Yeah. I just like that part. And then Lucy comes back and gets to Ruth. She's starting to run into her office. Ruth has a gun to Lucy's neck. Lucy has a gun to her neck. They're staring each other down. You know, they're like, oh my God. And Ruth kind of looks like she might be even crying a little bit.
Yeah. Betrayal.
And then John Stamos shows up and they both got guns in her. So she's like, well, I guess two's better than one, more than one. So I'll put my gun down. Oh, actually, he's got three. So it's a 3 against 1 because he's got 2 guns. So they pull Ruth up to the safe and they're like, give us the combination or we're going to shoot you.
Numbers. Johnny, please. Johnny, I gave you everything.
Shut the fuck up. And I put honey all over your ugly goat face and stake you out for the fire ants.
What are the numbers, Ruth?
Come on, Ruth, what are the numbers?
21. 34. 16. And 42.
21.
21.
34.
Woo!
We hit the mother load.
You're doing fine, ma'am. Wondered if you'd take off that mink. Shame to bloody it up.
Then you can't get into the safe. I guess you just shoot the safe, but I guess they're trying to make it to where it doesn't look like it's been stolen from. If you can open the safe, like it's less trackable, I guess. So she gives them the code, they open the safe, and ta-da, there's money in there. Yay, money. Now they're like saying the same kind of lines that she was saying to them earlier.
Yeah,
like
ironic
throwing it back in her
galore.
face. Well, and so Lucy's like, I like that fur coat. Give it to me. So then Ruth's like taking her fur coat off, and she's like, yeah. And then they have Ruth turn around. And John Stamos is going to do the same kind of scene where he's going to shoot her. I like how it's like goes back and forth. Like everything swaps a lot in this episode. She's got the coat on, the jewelry. She had to take her clothes off in the jewelry in the other scene. Like it's kind of like a back and forth. So it's kind of fun. So he kills Ruth on the floor. He like... he's really like just trigger happy on that. So now they're like, yay, we got the money. Oh my God, we're in love or whatever. So now the tables turn. So Lucy instead takes the cash and then she turns the gun on Johnny and she's like, I'm doing this by myself.
Oh, betrayal again.
So now you're like, oh no, twist. So then now...
Hard cut
to her getting shot in the head back in the forest.
Bam.
It's a little gruesome.
Bam, hole right through the forehead and there she is. She drops.
Cuts to Johnny's face. He looks dead inside. So he shoots her. So what that all was fake. That's where we get, I think, the what if in the description. So it's a thing of what if we were able to get out of this situation and go get the money. I think this was a way of him validating killing her anyway, because then in his mind, she would have screwed him over to begin with.
Yeah. When I first was seeing this scene, I was really thinking that this was like her fantasizing about it just in that space of time where she has the gun held to the back of her head. She's imagining all of this just to escape from reality for a bit, because the way that that whole sequence is shot is very different from the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's
the rest of the episode
foggy.
is very matter of fact. Everyone's moving more or less in kind of like a real time way. Whereas that last scene, it's shot like an over-the-top schlocky 80s action movie. It's very different in tone from the rest of the episode. So I thought right off the bat, this is a fantasy. But I thought it was her having that fantasy. But I agree with you. I think he is having this just to justify.
That's the only way he can survive is by giving himself, like, taking that power, taking that guilt from him.
Yeah, like you put reframing this as it was either me or her.
Yeah, and she would have screwed me over. So
exactly.
I might as well just do that.
And you know what? Maybe he was right, but we'll never know.
I have a feeling she was in on it. I don't think she would have backstabbed it.
Yeah.
So he kills her. So now Lucy's dead. So that's the reality of it. There was no bang bang shoot 'em up, which makes sense because also Well, the fact that those guns had unlimited clips.
That is interesting. That's an interesting point.
Because it was more of it was a dream sequence type thing. So,
like I said, we get so used to it in media that we just assume that everyone who creates these kind of things will just have like a gun go off like 100 times without reloading, right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe this is one more little kind of take.
So now Lucy's dead. They're all standing there. Johnny hands the gun back to Frank. Tony comes over with the axe. He's like, well, I already did the one guy. I guess I'll take care of her too. Hack, hack, hack.
Oh, I live for this.
But yeah, he doesn't really have any blood on him whatsoever. So what is this supposed to be protecting him from?
It's a little strange.
So then Ruth's so creepy. She like looks out the window and she's like, come on, that's Cruella de Vil right there.
Okay, that's definitely a Cruella de Vil vibe.
She's got her chin up. She's like, that's right. He killed her for me.
You're going to start singing about killing puppies next.
So then, dead-eyed and sad, he lights up another cigarette, and then he's like, come in, sweetie, and comes back into the limo, and that's it.
Sweet dreams, baby.
Well, that's 5 Ks for the kids. Step aside, boys. Give me a little elbow room. Sweet cake shouldn't take too long. Who knows? Might be able to catch the last few innings.
How's it back?
Murder.
Johnny!
Coming, sweetheart.
That's the end of the episode. It's just a continuation of how his life is as this gigolo or whatever for this mob boss. And, well, I said she's a mob-connected older woman, but I'm pretty sure she's a mob boss. I wouldn't say this episode's, like, super amazing, as in, like...
It's not bad. I mean,
it's not bad.
It's one of the more, in retrospect, memorable ones for me.
But I really like how it was written. I think it was well written in the fact that there's this... Like, I completely fell for the dreamlike sequence. Afterwards, I was like, oh, that didn't even happen.
I didn't, though. Like, it was just so over the top, I was certain it had to have been something.
Well, sometimes Tales from the Crypt's pretty over the top.
I know, but just the tonal shift, I guess, is what did it for me.
Yeah, I guess... I mean, it was slightly off in the way it looks.
Then again, I like to think about that all the time, and once you start watching enough weird, surrealistic David Lynch or Ingrid Bergman movies, you kind of like, okay, what is really going on here? You start questioning about everything. So when something's played straight, then you're like, oh, well, that's stupid.
I really did like the way it was written in the back and forth. I think it was done fairly seamlessly. Because there's been a couple episodes where I'm like, I feel like a scene's missing, and then it just skips to something else.
Yeah,
but I think this one was tied together pretty well.
Some episodes you do get that feeling, and who knows, it could be the case, in fact. I mean, you have to cut these things down for runtime. So
that's the end of the episode. Season 5, episode 13, Till Death Do We Part. It cuts back to the Crypt Keeper. Now he's in baseball attire.
Mm-hmm. He's not just commenting on the game. He is the game.
Yes, and he's got a hat, and he's pitching to the catcher.
To, like, mannequins.
Yeah, and there's a C on his hat, and he hits their heads off. Like, there's no heads, but he hits their, I guess, mannequin heads off with the ball.
Their helmets off.
And he's just throwing puns and having a great time.
Crypt Keeper, you're so punny.
And the best Crypt Keeper pun is...
That Lucy, what a cut-up! I bet she wishes she were the one on the chopping spree.
There is some IMDb trivia for this one. In the Crypt Keeper's introduction, like I was saying earlier about the baseball diamond, they get a little more into it. In the Crypt Keeper's introduction, the baseball diamond diagram lists Gaines on the pitcher's mound and Feldstein on the home plate. This is reference to William Gaines and Al Feldstein, who were respectively the publisher and the prominent writer-artist for the original Tales from the Crypt comic book. So I guess you would have the publisher throwing the ball to the writer and artist.
Yeah. I find it interesting. I mean, I guess they just assumed that the Abbott and Costello reference was so, like, well known that they didn't even bother to throw that in there too.
That's really cute.
I mean,
that's what they were going for. I thought
who's on first?
Cute.
What's on second? I don't know. Who's on third? It's one of those things that
Guts on second. What's on second?
Yeah, Guts on second. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, what's third?
I don't know. Who's on third? But they
they were like,
you know, I mean, obviously it doesn't. It's not like a strict kind of thing.
All right. So another trivia thing is the dream sequence involving the gun battle at Ruthless Roots is very close to the opening sequence of the movie The Killer from 1989 by John Woo. For example, John Stamos enters by knocking on the door, shooting someone in the stomach, forcing his way in using 2 guns, 1 in each hand, simultaneously, and then shooting the bartender who is armed with a shotgun. There is also a Mexican standoff between Kate Vernon and Eileen Brennan, which is very common in a John Woo movie. The storyline also, or another bit here, is the storyline closely resembles the short story The Occurrence at Owl Creek
Oh yeah,
Bridge.
it does. It
Have
really
you read
does.
that?
Yeah, Ambrose Bierce story.
Yeah.
Where he, a man basically has a whole kind of dream sequence right before he's hung. And you kind of think that, oh, he's gotten free. Well, no, he's
and then
not.
you find out here, yeah.
No, it's been a while since I watched it, to be honest. I think I mainly remember it from the fact that it was a Twilight Zone episode, I want to say. Either that or Old Outer Limits. I have to look into that.
Also, the sportscast heard throughout makes many references to a pitcher named Scott Nimmerfro, who was in fact a frequent associate producer and contributing writer for the series. So they do a bunch of little shout-outs in this episode. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. Season 5, episode 13, Till Death Do We Part. Next we'll be jumping into season 6 with season 6, episode 1, Let the Punishment Fit the Crime. Mike, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
It was a joy.
Did you have a great time?
As always.
And thank you all so much for downloading and listening to this episode. You can follow the Good Evening Kitties podcast on Facebook, as well as Twitter at GEK Podcast or at Geck Podcast. Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Podcast Republic, or Facebook, and I will read it on the podcast. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye.
Bye.
I just had quite a scare. I actually thought my heart